Hi, I'm Steve Maher. I'm the ergonomics guy, and I'd like to talk to you about footrests, why you would need them, when to use them, and where to get them. So what we'll do is jump into the screen capture. I'll show you some pictures of a client I just worked with, and then I can show you some options for various footrests. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so here we are looking at some pictures of some evaluations that I did recently, and both of these women had the same issue where their feet just didn't touch the floor. So what they did is they raised the chair up as high as it would go, but you can see that their feet are not supported on the floor. So you can see how she's just holding on with her toes. And this lady, it's a little bit darker, but her legs are coming down, and she's actually got her feet here on the casters. But the same thing is happening in both cases where, whoops, their hips are way above their knees, and then they're holding their feet way behind them. And that is a problem because it puts a lot of pressure here on the back of their knees, and that can tend to cause numbness down into their legs. So what they tend to do is scoot forward in the chair, and then there's a big gap here, so they're really getting no back support. So here you can see with this woman where her feet are on the casters, she is nowhere near this backrest, so she's getting no back support at all. The other thing that happens when you're way up on your toes like this, it's really hard to move around in the workstation. So what happens a lot of times is you grab the edge of the chair, the desk, and you push and you pull yourself around, and that can put a lot of stress on your shoulders and your elbows. So what we will recommend is that you get a footrest or something to support your feet. And the important thing is it needs to be the right size. You can see this woman does have a footrest under here. It's kind of dark and hidden, but she certainly has one. The problem is when she slides in, it's still too low. So her feet would come out like this, or her legs would come out like that, and her feet would hit about here, and there's still just a little bit of a gap between the footrest and her feet. So it really doesn't help her that much. And with this woman over here, she brought in this stool from home, which is great and kind of fun to draw. The problem is it's way too high for her. So now that her feet are supported here, it forces her knees up above her hips. And so her thighs are coming back like this, and that tends to round out her back into this position. And you can actually see here how she's getting forced back into the mesh of the backrest. So if the footrest is too low here, it's pretty useless because it doesn't support your feet. And if it's too high, it causes some weird biomechanical changes. So really what you want to do is you want to find a footrest that allows you to sit in a good neutral posture. So you should be able to sit with your feet supported on the footrest, okay, right here. And then your knees should be just a little bit below your hips, so a slight uphill from your knee to your hip. And what that does biomechanically is it rolls your pelvis forward just a little bit. Sorry, this isn't the greatest drawing tool. And that allows your spine to come into a much more neutral position like that. If your knees are higher than your hips, it's going to roll your pelvis back like this and put your spine in this big C shape. So it's important that the footrest is tall enough to support your feet with you working with your elbows at about the level of the keyboard. And so here, this woman does have a keyboard tray. This woman doesn't, so she has to sit a lot higher. With the keyboard tray, here's something that we found is that if people are around 5 feet tall, this woman was 4'11", if we did lower her down so her feet were flat on the floor, she felt like she was sitting in a hole. And so even if we raised her up, even if we brought the keyboard tray down, she still wouldn't want to work there because she just felt like everyone was looking down at her. So it's important that we bring her up, but we just have to make sure that we support her in the right position. And so what I can do is show you some options for footrests. So I can come over here. And this is my website. I'm working on it. So if you have any comments on how to make it look better and what you like to see in a website, please let me know. I'm working on it currently. One of the new features is here under ergonomic products. I have a whole list of products that I found that I recommend to my clients that are also available on Amazon. So if you come down here to footrests, this page will pop up. And I have a bunch of different ones that you can get. And I'd like to talk to you just for a minute about different styles of footrests. Okay, so you can certainly start with something really basic like this one right here. And what it is just a platform for your feet, and then it has this U-shaped holder right there. And so the whole platform kind of rocks back and forth. And that is an okay choice as long as when it's straight across, it's high enough for you. If it's too low, it's pretty useless. So something to think about. Also, a lot of times you want a solid surface. You don't want it to rock all the time because you want support. And so the ones with the sort of arch supports there, sometimes they work, not always though. Then we can look at something like this one here or this one over here, okay? And again, what it is just a big flat top right here to support your feet. And underneath, this one I think has a rocker, so it'll rock back and forth. It may also have a locking mechanism, which is basically a screw, so you can set it to an angle that's comfortable and then tighten the screw to keep it in place. Again, this one is fixed height. This one over here has sort of a base kind of like that, and you can actually raise it up and down. So you have a little bit more flexibility. I think you can bring it up to about 4 inches. So you can raise that one up so that it gives you a little more flexibility. So the woman in the picture on the left, she could use something like this because we could bring it up to the right height and then lock it in place there. The thing about the lady on the left, though, is since she was 4'11", she might need a taller footrest. And so this one down here, right here, is built a little bit differently. So it's got this metal frame on the outside, these two L's like this, and then it has an attachment on the edge. And what that does is it slides into the bars. And then the bar has a bunch of little holes, and you can raise that up or down so that you can bring it up really high. So it can support you pretty much in any position. And where we'll typically recommend these is with really short people, vertically challenged people, or somebody working at a bench. So we see a lot of people that work in banks, and what they can do is sit in a stool chair and then bring that platform up really high so that it supports their feet when they're sitting in a stool chair. So this is a really good chair option if you need to sit higher. And then this is another one. This one's a standing footrest, okay? This one right here. And what's kind of cool about this is it's just 2 bars. There's a low bar and a high bar. And what you can do there is you can rest your feet on either bar. So it's got a nice wide base here and here, and you can rest your foot on the lower one or the upper one. And where I think this is a real advantage is if you're standing. So if you have an ergotron or a Varidesk or an adjustable height desk where you have the ability to stand, what happens is you tend to overarch your back, especially if you're wearing heels or if you're kind of big in front. If you haven't been working out enough, what that does is it actually pushes your center of mass forward. And to balance, what you tend to do is arch through your low back and hold your shoulders back. And so if you do what's called a stagger step, so you have here's your pelvis here, right? So you have 1 foot straight, and then you have 1 foot coming out and down like that, okay? It's called a stagger step or the Captain Morgan. And what that does is it tends to decrease stress on your low back right in here because it loosens up your hip flexor muscles, which are the muscles that go from your thigh to your lumbar spine. And if they're tight from sitting all the time, when you go to stand up, it will tend to overarch your back. And so doing a stagger step, either on the lower step or the upper step, can really help to decrease stress on your low back. So that is kind of a fun thing that you can do too. So these are some different options. One other one, here's a climate controlled footrest up here. And what that does, you can see the little cord running out the back here. And what that does is you can heat it. And so if you want warm feet or if you want cool feet, you can turn on the fan or you can turn on the heater and warm your feet throughout the day. So that's kind of a fun option for some people. So those are just some options that you have for different footrests. I think they're all functional for different people. And if you need help figuring out which is the best one for you, please contact me and I can certainly give you more personal advice. We can do online ergonomic assessments, or if you're close by, we can always come by and look at your actual office. But there's different ways that we can help you choose the right equipment. If you found this video to be helpful, please hit the subscribe button and share with your friends. I would really appreciate it. And visit my website and you can find all these products and links to the Amazon site. Thank you very much.